Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second installment of Capital Markets Cocktails. I'm your host for today, Tyler Durr, a senior manager here at Lambert, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jeff TiiCKER, a senior director. Today, we're also joined by Mike Houston, managing director of the capital markets practice at Lambert and chief operating officer for the newly launched TiiCKER platform. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on today.
And welcome, Tyler. It's great to be here with you.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. Thanks for that warm. You're always the warmest of welcomers, aren't you?
I try to be friendly as I can be, especially with important guests like Mike.
Oh, very good.
I appreciate that.
Well, obviously myself and Jeff know Mike quite well, but Mike, would you mind kind of giving a background, maybe of your role here at Lambert, and then, of course, I think primarily for today, TiiCKER.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I've been with Lambert for about 8 years now, between two different tours of duty, as I like to put it. Like Tyler said, I lead the capital markets group and I'm managing director here at the firm. And really what that means is that we're working with publicly traded companies, private equity funds, and even companies that are looking to raise capital, maybe even for the first time. So wherever they're at on that continuum of capital, we're there to provide that counsel and step in and help them realize the full valuation that they're trying to achieve when they're raising that capital, or do a deal, M&A activity and the like. So we're there to kind of help them and guide them throughout that entire process. I'm also excited today to talk about TiiCKER. So I'm the chief operating officer, like you mentioned, Tyler, and we just launched a few months ago. We're very excited about what initially started as a concept and a thought by Jeff Lambert, where now we have a full team around this unique online platform to help individual investors connect with publicly traded brands and companies.
Mike, that sounds really exciting, but before we get into that, we need to have a cocktail. And that's just, my own personal preference, but it is a show about capital markets and cocktails. So what is our cocktail for today? And I know you had a suggestion. So what are we having?
So I'm not much of a drinker, and when I say that, I don't drink at all, actually. But so I was thinking, to keep it simple, we could do a whiskey and a Coke, and I'll do the whiskey and a Coke sans the whiskey, if that's okay.
Well, Mike, that seems fair. And certainly we don't ever want to peer pressure people into drinking if they're not comfortable. And Tyler and I can pick up the slack on that. But I think it's certainly, I think it was a great idea. Whiskey and Coke, it's super simple and it's easy for us. Sometimes we get a little, the technology, it's a balancing act, but I actually went out. I'm not much of a whiskey drinker myself. And so I actually went out and bought a bottle of this Tanner's Creek bourbon whiskey. And this is actually made by one of our clients, MGP Ingredients. And I actually got, it was nice because when I bought it, there was this nice little tag on there that apparently they're contributing to the Indiana Forest Alliance with every purchase of this. So that was kind of nice. And living in Indiana, I appreciate the attention to our forest. But let's quick pour a little whiskey and some Coke. Now I have some Diet Coke, so I'm doing a little different today. But
as do I, Jeff. Diet Coke as well.
There you go. I got a giant bottle because that's all I had in the cupboard.
I went for the unleaded version, so.
Yeah, and then for me, I'm just drinking my favorite rye whiskey from Bullet today.
So although I don't have the appropriate alcohol, I do have the appropriate glass that's MGP branded. So I at least have that going for me.
Well, I have my glass and I'm all ready to go. As soon as Tyler's apparently behind the curve, so we'll wait for him and then we'll do a toast.
Listening to you blabber on. I didn't know when to do it. Well, as you can see, I'm not in my kitchen today either. I'm actually in the office with Ryan from our video team.
So things are starting to get back to normal then.
Yeah. I think we're taking all the precautions here. There's arrows that I need to follow everywhere. I think that's something you might struggle with, Jeff, so it's probably good you're at home.
Well, I don't have any arrows in my house, so that helps me stay on track.
But yes, Ryan is masked. I would be masked if I didn't need to talk and, more importantly, drink. But yeah, all the protocols are here. It's a nice little change of pace to be back and see some familiar faces, not over video. So
here's to a nice second episode of Capital Markets Cocktails. We'll toast you, Mike, and what we're going to talk about today. Cheers.
Cheers.
Ooh, that's a stiff drink. Wow.
Don't mock, Mike. Don't mock. So Mike, tell us a little bit about TiiCKER. Now, I'm kind of fascinated by this. It's a relatively new platform that we've developed, but the idea behind it, I think, is one that's been around for a while. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about what you're trying to do with TiiCKER and how is this important to investors as well as companies?
Yeah, we're very excited about it, and we can honestly say it's a first of its kind. And I know that's extremely cliche with three communicators here at the table, but it really is a first of its kind where we're enabling individual investors to connect with those public brands that they already own and love. So oftentimes you think of like for myself, I like having Apple products. And so one of the analogies we often use is, well, if you're always buying the newest iPhone every year, why not also be a shareholder of Apple stock? And furthermore, if you're a shareholder of Apple stock, wouldn't it be great to get discounts on the items that you're already purchasing and that you love? And so that's kind of the basic premise of TiiCKER, is that we're making those connections such that loyal shareholders become loyal customers and loyal customers continue to be loyal shareholders.
What's in it for the companies?
So that's another unique proposition, because oftentimes the information that companies receive about their individual investors or the retail investors is very fragmented at best. And so we're able to kind of piece together some of that information for companies, because these individual investors are opting in to share their information in return for perks, for insights about the company, to connect potentially with the CEO and the CFO in a more meaningful way that they just haven't to date. And so by them sharing their information, the companies are then able to piece together who their individual investors actually are, which before TiiCKER, it had never existed historically.
Well, historically, I mean, there's been a lot of changes, obviously, since the advent of shareholders holding their stock in street name, and I think that started right around the early 1970s. And so, it used to be that, companies would know who their investors were because they had registered shares in certificate form. But now in the modern age, it's all, kind of done through street name, which kind of masks who the actual beneficial owners are. And so this actually tries to overcome that. Is that right?
It is. And what's fascinating about that too is oftentimes investors don't realize that they are trading in street name. So we've done a few studies and have reached out to a lot of individual investors. And I would say the vast majority of the respondents indicated that because they had an E-Trade account or a Schwab account and they were purchasing Apple shares or Google shares, they just thought that the company knew who they were because they were making those trades. When in reality, on the back end, a lot of those online brokerages streamline it such that you are trading in street name, and they just run all the information through their platform to you, such that the company actually doesn't know who you are. And so a lot of individual investors don't even realize that. And so for us to help them make that connection, I think is taking it a step further too.
Yeah, and I just wanted to offer one point of clarification, I think, here before we got too far forward. So the TiiCKER platform is actually spelled out TiiCKER, and I think that'll obviously be in everything accompanying here, but just want to make the point for people just viewing specifically. But that II is specific in that it stands for individual investor. So if you're looking to look this up and kind of play around with the different tools and look into some of your favorite companies, I think just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, that's a good comment. And I would add too, Jeff, on that thought around knowing who your individual investors are. With the advent of street name, like you said, there were a lot of companies that didn't know who their individual investors were. So they would go to these conferences, stand in a booth for 2 to 3 days, hand out free things to individuals that would stop by, and try to scrape together some of that data to figure out who their individual investors were. And so, fast forward 30 years, 40 years, there are companies that are still doing that and standing in these booths, handing out free things with the hopes of having a better understanding of who their individual investors are and interacting with them. Whereas TiiCKER totally solves that whole problem of, one, knowing who those individual investors are, but then interacting with them in a more meaningful way than standing in a booth and hoping you're able to talk to your shareholders.
Well, from a company standpoint, obviously it's important to know who your shareholders are, especially if you're coming into contact with, proxy issues or any kind of voting issues. If you have any controversies that need to be addressed at an annual meeting, you want to know who all of your shareholders are. And this, for some companies, individual investors can make a significant piece of their overall shareholder base. But the other thing is, and this is something that really fascinated with me when we first talked about this, was the fact that a lot of consumers, when they own companies that they use in their everyday lives, can be really strong brand ambassadors for those companies. And that's something that I thought was really interesting.
I think we're not only finding that, but we're finding that these individual investors are on average longer holders. So they're holding on average for 8 years in a particular stock, which is an eternity, especially as we interact with some of the institutional, hedge funds that are out there that are in and out in a matter of days, weeks, or, sometimes months. And that's a long horizon for them. So to have not only somebody that normally votes with management, is an advocate when it comes to the proxy season, is a long-term shareholder and a legit long-term shareholder, but like you said too, also that brand ambassador, that if they're in love with that particular brand, they're going to tell their neighbors, their friends, and further that brand and that loyalty.
Yeah, well, I think on this same point, I think, Jeff, you might be able to share a unique perspective, having worked internally at one of our clients, Thor Industries, for a while. I guess I'd be curious to what you all did as it relates to individual investors, if this is something that would be intriguing to you as you led in that role. Just kind of gain your perspective of what that looked like.
Sure, Tyler. When I was at Thor, we really didn't do much of anything with individual investors, just because the data just wasn't there. We had no way of knowing who actually held our shares. Even, to the extent, I own stock in Thor, and I don't think anyone in our corporate office, other than me telling them, knew that I was an actual shareholder, because it was held in street name. It was, held in my online brokerage account, and, I was not a registered shareholder. Now, if I had, requested a direct registration, maybe they would have known then. But, for a lot of individual investors, they own it through their broker, and we know their broker is a holder. Actually, we don't even know that. We know CD & Company is their holder, which is, they own about 90% of all shares that are registered are in their name. And they were the original depository trust company, which was the street name where all of these, brokers held their securities. So it made trading easier and clearing easier. But we lost a lot of that data on who exactly what were the owners of our stock. And, from a Thor perspective, and this may be true for a lot of issuers, most of the owners were institutional. So you could talk to your big, institutions, the big mutual fund companies, Fidelity or T. Rowe or any of the big companies like that, and you can find out who, your shareholders are from that perspective. But, for that, I think at Thor it was probably about 10% or 15% of our shareholder base. We had no insights into them at all. And those were the ones where, if we could give them the ability to, be more aligned with our company and our brands and our products, and really go out and be brand ambassadors, that would be an attractive opportunity.
Well, and you bring up a really good point, Jeff, because there's a lot of value in knowing who your investor base is, right? So that's one component of it. But imagine too, not just as an investor relations officer, but as a chief marketing officer, to have access to that demographic that have bought into the investment thesis, like the strategy of the company enough to purchase shares, that you're also able to market directly to them, offer different discounts or opportunities to ensure that you're brand loyal, and market directly to those individuals. It hasn't existed before, and so I think we're really with TiiCKER bringing together that investor relations department and that marketing department, where historically those two departments just haven't communicated much, and maybe we could keep it at that.
So how does this, for Mike, how does this impact companies that aren't necessarily consumer companies?
Yeah, that's a great question. And oftentimes too, because if you think about shareholder perks, if it's a company that recycles plastic, what could their shareholder perk even be, right? And how could they use that to engage with their individual investor base? And we found that cause marketing, donations, and the like are really valuable to especially to individual investors that are investing in, a cause, kind of ESG type focused, if you will. So that's just one example, but there are a variety of different cause marketing and donation opportunities that we're able to offer as shareholder perks. But then even too, taking that a step further, if it's maybe not an ESG play and a true business to business type company, we're able to offer free swag. So think of like having a Thor hat or a Thor t-shirt, right? And being able to wear the brand that you own shares in and love, and without necessarily having to have a shareholder perk that ties directly to the brand if the brand isn't more consumer focused. But there's a variety of opportunities that we have there to engage those individual investors, to have those perks such that they're wanting to opt in and learn more about the company and be connected. So there's one stat that I think is important here that often a lot of us, even as investor relations professionals, don't understand, but there are 56 million individual investors just in the United States alone. And so if you really think about how big of a number that is, kind of extrapolate that a little bit further, there's more than $9 trillion in individual kind of self-directed investments. And that's just within the big 5 online brokerages. So you're thinking Schwab, Fidelity, E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, and Robinhood. So the number's a little bit bigger, but those 5 encompass a lot of kind of that market potential. And so really at TiiCKER, we see an opportunity there to convert that 9 trillion in individual stock ownership to consumer shareholders, right? To, again, make those shareholders or ensure those shareholders are loyal customers and loyal shareholders at the same time through shareholder perks and discounts.
So
yeah,
Mike,
and I think naturally in our role as consultants, we kind of lean towards viewing the company side and the benefits to our clients, right? But I think today we might have a lot of viewers that are individual investors or looking to invest. And I think outside of the perks, I'd be interested in learning kind of what the other benefits to investors logging into the platform might be.
Yeah, so the platform provides a great opportunity to discover the brands that you love, right? And so oftentimes there are brands that we consume or use that we didn't even really know that they're part of a publicly traded company. So I'm thinking of Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire Hathaway owns a lot of subsidiaries that we all know and love, but we didn't really know that it all rolled up into that Berkshire Hathaway parent company from Geico and others. And so from there, you're able to...
Don't forget Dairy Queen.
So I was spacing on brands, so then I just totally kind of skipped over that as soon as I could. I kept thinking
it's one of my personal favorites.
This is what TiiCKER's for, so you can learn what those brands are, Mike. It's
well,
perfect for someone like you.
I kept thinking of Yum brands. I don't know why, but no. So with Berkshire Hathaway, there's a variety of different brands like Geico and Dairy Queen that people can learn more about that parent company and even invest in the parent company. So with that, you're able to discover the brand pages of all these publicly traded companies, either by typing in the company's name or the ticker symbol. And within those brand pages, there's also insights. And so we have a team of writers and editors that are looking at different brands and different investment opportunities and including that in the insights section of the platform and tying it directly to those tickers.
Mike, I signed up for an account at TiiCKER and I thought it was fascinating that there's so much content. There's so many different articles. I've written a few articles. I'll take some. I'll put a promo in for
we
that.
Appreciate that.
But it's great insights, great articles, great information. But you can also link your account. So tell us a little bit how that works, and what you can trade or how that
Mhm.
functions.
So when you sign in, it takes you through a variety of different steps to really get to know you. I mean, that's really what we want to do, is get to know your preferences and your existing portfolio of companies that you own, such that we can serve up content and shareholder perks to you. So as you sign up, you link your online brokerage account or accounts. There's hundreds of online brokerage accounts that you can link to verify that you're a shareholder, so that you get these perks served up to you. But then there's a handful of what we call lifestyle questions that we kind of sprinkle throughout the process, again, to really get to know your interests and your likes, such that we can serve up these articles. So for instance, we know that you're an Amazon shareholder. Well, we can also recommend other stocks. So Shift Group, for instance, that they actually just had a story, I think it was last week, around how they're building these vehicles to enable Amazon to expand their shipping capabilities, right? And so because you're a holder of Amazon, we can also serve up companies like Shift Group and content around that company, such that you're learning more and more brands that are out there, and how oftentimes these public companies are quite interconnected, and how they kind of work together to increase your portfolio.
So yesterday, interestingly enough, Ford announced the new Bronco, and I was excited by that, and I imagine many others. Not being a current Ford shareholder, what would it look like if I was inspired by something like that, or something another brand had launched or done recently, if I wanted to hop on the TiiCKER platform and buy some Ford stock, for instance? What does that look like?
Yeah, so that's content that we would serve directly to you. New updates on Ford, right? So you could visit the Ford brand page that's created in TiiCKER. So you could go to TiiCKER.com/F, because F is the ticker symbol for Ford, and it'd take you directly to their brand page. So there you'd learn more about Ford, the new Bronco that was announced here just the other day. You could scroll through some different articles that provide more insights on the brand and other brands that are tangentially linked. But like you said, you can also make trades right within that brand page. So that's another unique offering of TiiCKER, is that you can click on the shareholder perks button and see if you qualify for those shareholder perks. You can read the articles, the insights, and the podcasts attached with that brand. But then too, there's a little trade button right there that allows you to buy stock right then and there through that online brokerage that you had previously connected to TiiCKER.
So, Mike, we've talked a little bit about the features of TiiCKER and the opportunities for individual investors and companies. What is your long-term vision of what you want TiiCKER to become, and just kind of where you think this is going to head?
That's a great question, Jeff. And I think short term, there's definitely an opportunity that we've been able to capture around linking individual investors with the brands that they love. And maybe more near term, we think there's an opportunity to improve the process around direct stock purchase programs and dividend reinvestment programs. Being an in-house IRO previously, I knew the fragmented information that I would get once a year from my transfer agent around those direct stock purchase programs. So I think there's an opportunity for TiiCKER to really be able to make that process more efficient, in the sense of giving additional data and insight to those publicly traded companies, such that we're able to offer commission-free trading and those insights around those trades that public companies just don't really have today. But I think as it relates to longer term, there's a significant opportunity to build a community that's discovering the brands that they love and that they can invest in, and to be able to do that all within the platform and share different articles or podcasts, and really feel like you have a more meaningful connection with the CEO or CFO of a brand you love. I think transcends what we have now, to where we're really allowing individual investors greater access that historically they just haven't had. So I think, in short, we're able to democratize Wall Street for the retail and the individual investor that just hasn't existed previously.
Empowering the individual investor, that's great stuff. You talked a little bit about consumers. So people like me, individual investors, can come on the TiiCKER website, sign up for a new account. what is an IRO or a company executive who wants to be a part of this? How do they get in touch with you? How do they get involved in this?
So probably the easiest way is corporate@TiiCKER.com. We've also got an About Us page on the website that you can visit and learn more as an individual investor, as a corporation or a publicly traded company, but then also too as an investor. So that's one of the other things we haven't quite talked about yet, but we're just about finished raising our seed round. So it's a little over $1 million in seed funding that we're raising to push this forward. So we're very much in that startup phase right now. But going back to your question, Jeff, it's either the About Us page or the corporate@TiiCKER.com to learn more. And those emails come directly to me, and I'd love to have a conversation and be able to share more about the platform.
Great. Well, Jeff, I try my best not to pay you too many compliments, but I think that was a perfect kind of closing question, directing people to Mike and the team. And again, want to thank Mike for joining us today on what was a great second installment. I know it was a little different than just myself and Jeff bantering. It was nice to add another person to the fold. So I think with that, another cheers is appropriate. And thanks all for joining again.
Hear, hear.
Thanks.
Cheers.